You're listening to WGBB, Long Island's oldest radio station. I'm Brad Nellis.
And I'm Scott Honickman.
And this is Nonsense News Nation, your news with a twist.
Coming up in just a few minutes.
Is Greta Thunberg immortal? We find out the truth here on Nonsense News Nation.
Uno takes a stand against the tense political climate.
Some wizards cast spells. Others use women's underwear for their magic.
Like Arby's, Border Patrol has the meats.
A firearm expert shoots and misses. Well, unless he was aiming for his leg.
Tupac takes over Mass at a foreign church.
And we introduce the Iranian Hulk.
And also, Brandon, we're going to give a in-depth talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. All of this and much, much more coming up on Nonsense News Nation, your news with a comedic twist.
That is a lot to unpack, a lot to deliver, but I have confidence. This is show 11 on WGBB, so I think at this point we know what we're doing.
We've got the format down. You know, the past few weeks we've had other people here, we've had guests. Today it's just me and Brandon.
No other distractions. We're going to get right down to business and go to our first segment of the show.
No nonsense this time.
No, I can't promise that, but slightly less nonsense. Let's continue. We're going to go to our first segment. We call it National News. And why is that, Scotty boy?
Well, Brandon, I'll tell you, with a great smile on my face. We go all around the country and we find the craziest, wackiest, most nonsensical stories we can find.
And it's not just Florida. There are actually other places with crazy stories.
There are 49 other states with wackiness and nonsense going down.
So let's go to our first state, Scott, and tell us what we have today.
Brandon, I thought you were reading the first story.
Oh, I'm flattered. All right. I know the ladies first thing. I'm the most feminine on the show here. All right, so you all remember Greta Thunberg. I know you do, Scott.
She looks much like your sister. She does.
Yes, who is 21, and this girl is 16 years old.
Okay, well...
She, for anyone who doesn't know, she championed the environmental activism in the recent UN Climate Action Summit. And if you don't remember, we actually have a clip right here of her iconic speech. Take a listen.
How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words.
We're also going to go to a meme right after this.
People are suffering. People
Get
are
ready.
dying.
How dare you? You have stolen my dreams, my childhood with your empty words. People are suffering. People are dying.
I don't think anyone expected that.
I didn't even expect that.
Nope.
Wow.
So, love or hate her message, it's undeniable that she's become a sensational meme on the internet. While the world was convinced that the meme of Greta Thunberg is a recent one, I'm here like a horse at a political conference to say nay. Not only am I sure that Greta is an old meme, but I'm absolutely convinced that it's a meme that has stayed with us for over a century. While you may look at a picture of Thunberg and assume that she's only a kid, there is insurmountable evidence proving that she's an immortal entity, or at least a non-aging mutant like Wolverine. A 120-year-old photo from Jochen Gold Rush resurfaced and has shocked the world. In the photo, you can see a small girl with the same braided hair, the same round nose, the same eyes, and the exact same proportions as Greta. I mean, it's uncanny. The photo is from the University of Washington and shows 3 children operating in a gold mine from 1898. Since the discovery, the world of Twitter has completely lost its mind, as Twitter normally does, really. Sadly, we don't know much about this Gold Rush golden girl because the photographer never listed any of the children's names. While there isn't any proof that this is Greta from another time, I did take time out of my day to find my own proof and really see if this is truly Greta. Since we know Greta is an environmental activist, I took the liberty to look up if gold mining is bad for the environment. To my astonishment, I found that gold mining can pollute the water and destroy landscapes. Since the real Greta that we know and love would never harm the earth, I could say without a doubt, with absolutely no uncertainty, that the girl in the picture was not Greta, but in fact an evil dark clone of Greta that escaped 1898's version of Area 51.
Brandon, your theories always surprise me, but Nonetheless,
you shouldn't be surprised with this proof that I just presented.
You know what I was gonna say? I also agree with you because I don't think she's really back in that time period. Because if she was, her activism probably would have had an effect, and today she wouldn't have to be alive to tell people.
Or maybe this is a time where Greta was going through a little bit of a emo phase, and she's trying to repent for her gold mining sins, and that's why she's the way she is now. We can theorize. We could do that forever.
Well, we don't
but
have
we
the
got a
time.
show to continue on with.
Yeah.
So, Scott, what's your story here?
Oh, Brandon, I have a doozy. Nobody can deny just how tense things are politically in this country right now, especially in 2019, with over 40% of Americans believing that opposing political views within the family are problematic. To combat partisan mentality, the toy company Mattel has stepped up to the plate, took a swing at the red and blue Uno cards, and knocked them out of the park, Brandon. That's right. You heard my metaphor correctly. Mattel is releasing a special Uno deck that doesn't have red or blue cards. This deck is aptly named the nonpartisan deck, with the tagline, "No red or blue cards means no taking sides." So, I want to talk about this just a little bit because I think this is pretty insane. The last place you'd expect
Uno.
politics to be involved in is Uno. Uno is numbers and colors.
Maybe Cards Against Humanity. I
No.
mean, it's mostly just white and black cards, which is another problem because there are more races in white and black. But for Uno to be questioned politically?
It seems as though
Nothing I've ever done.
we never thought we'd get to this point, Brandon, but it seems like it's gone to the point where everything's so tense that people will even associate
So red and blue
Uno.
are bad. I mean, that's pretty much 2/3 of the American flag. Can you imagine how the Matrix would be if instead of taking the red pill or the blue pill, just take this clear pill, forget everything, or take this other clear pill, and your world will be forever changed, and you won't know which pill is which.
Just take both of them.
Just take both.
Be safe. Take both the pills.
Don't be
let's
Elvis. Don't take both pills.
We'll see what the effects are later, but for now, let's get back to the story. So instead of using the only two political colors, Mattel will be using orange and purple, which are colors that are created when red and blue are mixed together. The deck even includes a veto card, which can be used on a player to stop the talk of politics. Not only does the veto card force the end of the political conversation, it also skips the turn of whoever started it. So now you have two different kinds of skips in Uno.
Hold up. If you have the power of vetoing, that's pretty much an executive power. If vetoing is an option in this non-political game, I think therefore it is political.
Oh no.
That's a veto is a.
That's
I
as
heard that all the
political as
time
it
in my
gets.
AP US class back in the day. So that's all I'm gonna say.
I think Mattel needs to veto this new non-partisan quote-unquote deck
Or
of Uno
find
cards.
another word that is similar to veto, but is not exactly vetoing, because it may give some terrible PTSD for people like me who had to suffer through AP US.
And me, who was a senator for New York for 10 years. I won't say which party because I'm non-partisan.
And you play Uno.
And I play Uno. So whether you lean left or you lean right, I think we can all agree, Brandon, that politics needs to stay out of Uno.
Take the red pill and you will forever be apolitical. Or take the blue pill and your Uno game may have the red and blue cards.
If you take the blue pill, you might wind up like our friend Greta, leaning way to the left. Anyway, I digress. Brandon, please give us our next story.
We're going to go around the world now to international news and see if other countries are dealing with Greta Thunberg or Uno. We'll see what's up. Alright, so my next story. If there's one thing I learned from my 4-day stay at Disney World is that there is magic everywhere. From the love of a family member, to an enchanting sunset, to the laughter of children, to women's underwear, magic is all around us. For some thieves in Meringue, Kenya, they do strongly prefer women's underwear over a sunset or any mushy-gushy stuff like that. They say that guys only want one thing, and it's disgusting. And yes, some guys in Kenya just really want some female undergarments for their magical properties. Now, folks, I've watched all the Harry Potter movies. God, even Fantastic Beasts. And like you, I don't recall Harry making a spell using panties. Maybe in Hogwarts, they're a bit more classy there. It's Britain, so obviously. But in Meringue, about 30 cases of panties and bras have been stolen. I need to point out that no valuables were taken, no money, no jewelry, just your wife's private protectors. One man who recovered his wife's undies in a bush claimed that he was mentally suffering and didn't know the intentions of the thieves. Yes, he said mentally suffering. You feel sad? No, I'm mentally suffering. What does that mean?
I like his use of
Me too, it's different.
adjectives.
They say ignorance is bliss, but this poor dude is mentally suffering, man. Some muggles will never understand this kind of pain.
We here on Nonsense News Nation do not condone mental suffering.
Last year, they found a panty thief who reported that he was ordered by a witch doctor to steal the undies. This mystical doctor claims that these articles of clothes are used to solve a client's crumbling marriage. I'm sure if Harry was facing a broken marriage himself and had to use his magic to save it, he probably would be the prisoner of Azkaban.
I can't weigh in here. I haven't seen any Harry Potter movies except
Then
the very last one.
I will stop speaking, so...
But
don't wanna
thank you
spoil
for
anything.
your metaphor that more people will understand than I.
Besides, this little muggle right here who doesn't get it. Anyway,
What
I
did
want to
you
hear your
say?
stories.
Well, thank you. I have a story that's both international and national, actually, because it takes place on the U.S.-Mexican border. So that works out.
So now we
that's
got to
a first
remix
for us.
our national theme and our international
We have to take
theme.
the- yeah,
we
we
don't
have
have
to
time
take
for
them.
that, Scott. It
But
should have been
next week-
international only.
This should have been a pre-production thing, but oh well. Brandon, Border Patrol is a very important job. Agents often prevent dangerous weaponry, drugs, and people from crossing our border. But earlier this week, U.S. Customs and Border Patrol stopped something that was probably the most dangerous of all: 150 pounds of bologna.
Oy vey.
This is not bologna. It is bologna, but what I'm saying
It's a load of
isn't-
bologna.
It's not a load of bologna. According to CBP, Mexican bologna is a prohibited product due to its pork content. In other words, bringing in pork from another country could introduce new diseases to domestic animals. So how did this all go down, Brandon?
How?
I'm glad you asked, and I will tell you.
Thank God I asked.
Well, one of the officers stopped a pickup truck entering from Mexico to El Paso, excuse me. As the officer approached the pickup truck, he noticed what he called red rolls sticking out of the rear view seat. This was, of course, the 150 pounds of bologna.
Bazinga.
Buzz.
That's all I can say.
Thanks. Thanks, Sheldon. Anytime we should get Jim Parsons on the show.
We should. Or 150 pounds of pork.
He is 150 pounds of pork. The man is all muscle. Much like the next story that you're going to talk about, the Iranian Hulk.
I will get into that, but is there like was the threat like a non-kosher threat by having all this pork? Was the
I don't think you'll
Border
find
Patrol
too
a
many
rabbi?
Jewish people. I don't think you'll find too many Jewish people.
Holy kavod, I touched it! I got a little pork on my sleeve.
I think all the pork had little yarmulkes on it.
Look, it's kosher. Look at the little yarmulkes. I handpicked
Now you're sounding like Wayne.
my Jewish father. Yeah.
Okay, we're moving right along here smoothly.
Do you have any more international stories?
I do have an international story.
I'm going to let you continue. I
Okay,
just like the sound
we're
of
going
your
to change the
voice.
format a little bit. So, I'll make this quick. Now, when you go to church, not that Brandon and I would know, because we're Jewish.
I go to Jewish church.
Go to the synagogue. You expect to hear a wholesome Christian prayer. As you know, that's what you expect when you go to church. The last thing you'd expect to hear, Brandon, is Tupac lyrics.
I mean, some people worship Tupac.
But in an official congregation, I don't know. That's what one mass in Sri Lanka was like this past week. The church printed out the lyrics to Tupac's song Hail Mary instead of an actual Hail Mary prayer. At the mass, Father Da Silvia recited the lyrics that included references to sex, women's genitalia, and gang violence. This was even printed into the booklets that members of the congregation could read. So everyone was sitting down at the what do they call it? Not the steeple. The
You think I know? I'm in the same boat as you. Thank goodness I didn't have this story. I have no background on the church.
Sorry to our Christian listeners. We don't have any background on the church. The church has since apologized for this mix-up.
Sorry, we it meant to be Biggie lyrics.
Meant to be Biggie.
B.I.G.
Everyone turned to page
None of that sinful
15
Tupac.
in the Biggie lyrics booklet.
I mean, how could they just go through with it completely? They printed out the lyrics.
They just
saw it.
they didn't proofread them. Is it maybe they were just in a rush? They didn't have time and they distributed
Did they get
them.
the 3 blind mice to print this out? How do you miss something like that?
3 Stevie Wonders.
3 Stevie Wonder.
I don't know how this happened, Brandon,
This
but
is Stevie Wonder approved. It's good.
yes, Stevie Wonder
But it's not
has
even Stevie.
proofread.
This is not
Yes,
even. It's not even Stevie Wonder lyrics. It's Tupac.
very different lyrics.
Very different.
Okay, let's move on
Speaking of, so let's do something completely different. We're gonna go on, I guess, to my segment, if you don't mind. We're gonna go to fails.
here. Yes.
The latest and greatest fails we have for you, because we care about you. We like people to suffer for our enjoyment.
Mental suffering.
Mental suffering. Yeah, so here's my story. A lot of Americans are worried about what would happen if guns fell into the wrong hands. What would the damage be?
The damage would be reportable.
But Scott, I propose a different question. What would happen if guns fell into the right hands? Gun experts who have been trained for years on how to operate a firearm. I'm here to report the results may be catastrophic. In Wake County, North Carolina, a civilian firearm instructor shot himself in the leg while holstering his gun. Something that he's always done. Not the shooting his leg part.
Something he's always done.
That's kind of
every single day.
Well, every day is kind of boring. I'm going to switch it up a bit. Shoot my leg.
Oh! Just like Herschel.
Be like Herschel in The Walking Dead and miss a leg. We've all been... What's like Herschel? Of all the Walking Dead characters, I'm sorry. You got this cool lady with swords. You got Daryl with crossbow. Who wants to be Herschel?
Herschel is a bad guy. By bad guy, I mean
Bad A.
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. Bad A.
Okay, so anyway, removing that tangent here. We've all been warned at a very young age not to play with guns. And if you haven't, here's a clip from A Christmas Story explaining the dangers of guns.
Guns are dangerous. I don't want anybody shooting his eye out.
Oh no, you'll shoot your eye out?
Thank you, Mother from Christmas Story. I couldn't have said it better myself. Since this guy fought his mother's warnings against guns with his Second Amendment rights, now he's left with one fully functioning leg. Like Herschel.
Oh, he lost his leg?
Well, it's very injured. You can't really...
Oh,
you
that's
could
what
try
you
to
mean.
walk with it.
I thought you meant he had
Very
to have
dumb
it
move.
removed.
Anyway, the wounded gunslinger was immediately rushed to the hospital with thankfully no life-threatening injuries, but he does have a lethal case of shame and embarrassment.
Lethal. It's gonna kill
Instead
him.
of cosplaying as his favorite Walking Dead character, now he has to dress up like Herschel and have overalls and be like, I'm a farmer. Just because one of his legs doesn't really work.
You can't afford a Herschel cosplay uniform on a police salary, but you can afford to shoot yourself with the gun you've been administered.
Yikes, kind of dark. Hopefully this next story will lighten up the mood a bit. We're going to go straight to spastic sports. We don't get our normal traditional sports stories. We like to switch it up a bit, so I'm going to get something a little crazy for y'all. After Avengers Endgame hit theaters, many fans were left wondering what would happen to the 3 remaining original Avengers, Hawkeye, Thor, and Hulk. Well, I can't speak much about Thor and Hawkeye. I have confirmation that the Hulk is now an Iranian bare-knuckle fighter. In all seriousness, a man by the name of Sajjad Gharibi, better known as Iranian Hulk, announced that he's debuting as a professional bare-knuckle fighter. That's a sport. Look it up, kids. While he isn't green like his American counterpart, he does match that incredibly hulkish physique. Imagine, if you will, a 27-year-old with the superpower of massively broad shoulders, I mean really massive, a chest the size of Everest, and arms as big as every Death Star in Star Wars combined. That's a lot of Death Stars. And you pretty much have the Iranian Hulk. Clips teasing his involvement in the championship were vague and said phrases like World War III, USA versus Iran, and 2020. What else can that mean but he's fighting the American Hulk in 2020 and the much anticipated Marvel event, World War III. For America's sake, I'm personally rooting for Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner. Before we continue, Brandon, I have to give a shout out to Ben, who asked me to say the word Bazinga on air.
That's why I said Bazinga before.
Oh, okay. Bazinga.
Bazinga indeed.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, so we have one more story. Not really a story, more like a conversation.
We're gonna have a little discussion.
I know, Scott, the divorce has been rough and we've had a restraining order for a while, but we're gonna rip that piece of paper apart and talk one-on-one because we played the new Pokemon game. So we're gonna go to.
You have to back up. You're not 5 feet away from me. You're 4 feet.
All
away
right.
from
Okay.
me.
We
Back
good?
a
We
little.
good?
I'll call the lawyer. Let me just make sure. I think we're fine.
All right.
Anyway,
So we're gonna go to our last segment, entertainment news for your entertainment, and we're gonna talk about a new game or games that hit shelves recently.
yes.
We're going to talk about the young adults here are going to talk about a children's game in great detail because that's what we do here. We're going to talk about the new Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yes. So it just dropped on November 15th. Me and Brandon both picked it up. He got Shield. I got Sword.
Dropped like the latest Tupac song at the church.
Oh,
the
yeah.
congregation.
Like fire. If our listeners have never played a Pokemon game, basically the game is about your character going on an adventure to catch as many of these wild creatures based on real-life animals as possible. And they each have different abilities and moves and animations, and they're all cool. And
But you catch them and you also fight them. It's like dog fighting with cute little baby creatures.
The two main, like Brandon said, the two main features about Pokemon, the reason why people buy it mainly is
Animal abuse.
Animal abuse and capturing the animals.
It
and
sounds
because
terrible.
of the Pokemon trainers.
In the Pokemon universe, they're like, no, they enjoy it. They love it. But it's kind of horrible if you think about it. But in Sword and Shield, we dismissed the horrid truth of enslaving creatures and having them fight to the death constantly and reviving them to kill them and reviving to kill and vice versa. And we go straight into the actual game. It's a very simple plot. It doesn't go into the more question of that. But a lot of people complained that the animation was not really up to par, and it's the first console game for Pokemon. They think I'd compare it like this: the other games are like Toy Story, and they wanted a Toy Story 4, but what they got was a Toy Story 2. But while it's not the most superb, game-changing thing like Breath of the Wild did for Zelda or Odyssey did to Mario, it's still the Pokemon you know and love. I've been obsessed. I'm up to the final boss now.
Look, as long as a Pokemon game doesn't deviate too much from its original formula back, 20 years ago, since it started 23 years ago, and as long as it introduces new Pokemon and new areas to play, I will be game. It doesn't really matter. The characters in the story never really meant much to me anyway in any of the games.
Right. And it's still decent enough that it holds your investment. Like, some of the places you go to are pretty exciting.
Some of the characters are very cool, like the Ice Gym Leader.
She's definitely
and
a fan favorite.
Fighting Gym Leader.
Mostly the Ice Gym Leader. But anyway, we're going to call it a day for the show.
We're going to wrap it up.
I had some
here.
fun. Did you have fun today?
I always have a blast here.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to do this.
And we'll be back in December. When exactly? You can go on our social media. We will tell you right when we get that news.
It is to be announced now. But
and if you want to sponsor the show, be a guest, you can contact us at nonsensenewsradio@gmail.com. That is nonsensenewsradio@gmail.com. We also have a website, nonsensenewsnation.com. If you want to hear our podcast, we're on SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify. Oh, God, we're everywhere.
unfortunately, we can't escape the internet. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you guys have a great week, great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and this was Nonsense News Nation, your news with comedic twists, only on WGBB, Long Island's oldest radio station.
Peace.
And love.